folks, one of the biggest challenges we face as a nation is educating our young people. We fail at every level. The left thinks it's all about money. All they want to do is throw money at every problem. Money is not going to solve our educational system in America. Households will, parents that are involved will, getting communities involved with the success of kids, but throwing money at the problem and bowing down to unions is not the problem. How do I know we have a serious problem at home? Because I saw this statistic. Nearly 30%, check this out, 30% of students, this is 14.7 million American kids, were chronically absent during the 2021 and 22 school year, meaning they missed 10% or more of the school year. To me, that falls back on parents. Is there anything else at play here? Well, joining me now, guest faculty at the Leadership Institute, and she is the CEO of Optima Ed. Erika Donalds is with us. Erika, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Grant. Appreciate being here.
Well, it's great to have you on. I've got a 14-year-old kid. I'm always trying to push him to school. If he had his way, he'd be one of these kids with the missing 10% of school. But is it parents? Is it the home? What do you see as the problems for this?
Well, it is a combination of factors, and I completely agree with you. Money is not going to solve it. We've seen the federal government dish out millions, billions of dollars really to school districts, and that is not getting these children to school. And if children are not going to school, they're not learning, which is a death knell to the future of our country. We know that in order to maintain a democratic society, we need an educated citizenry. These children who are chronically absent, which has more than doubled since before COVID, these kids are more likely to drop out of school or not graduate on time. They're more likely to be not reading or doing mathematics on grade level. And what is the cause of this? As you said, is it something at home? Well, what we are seeing at the same time is grade inflation, where schools are not being honest with parents about how perhaps absenteeism is affecting the academic performance of their children. Perhaps, as we saw during COVID, parents don't have trust in the system. They don't think that schools are actually doing their jobs educating children. So what's the point of going through the trouble of sending kids to school? I think there are a multitude of factors here. Of course, it starts in the home and making sure that parents are getting students to school to get what they need. But what are the schools doing to make sure that parents understand the implications of this and making coming to school worthwhile when we see proficiency rates at such dismal levels?
All right, I'm going to ask a question here, and the left always hates when I ask this, if I'm going to bring race into this. I actually think when we talk about issues like this, and even crime, race isn't the issue. It's monetary issues. It's the fiscal health of the household. Whether you come from a poor family, whether you're white or whether you're black, you're going to face the same type of issues. Is this an issue of those that fall into the underclass in America are missing school more than those who fall into the middle and upper class?
Certainly, statistics are telling us that lower income and disadvantaged communities are more affected by this. In fact, those communities are really at 60%, where you're looking at 30% overall. But all ages, or all demographics, I should say, are at least 20% that are chronically absent. And those numbers have spiked. So while it does disproportionately affect those disadvantaged communities, we're seeing it happen across the board. And what does that mean for society? Well, certainly lower proficiency rates and people who are entering college, for example, at the Leadership Institute, we've been tracking this type of data. Whether they're going to a community college, a two-year program, only less than 40% of those students are actually prepared for any college level work. 68% are taking remedial classes. When it comes to a four-year university, 40% of those students are not prepared for college level work and have to take remedial classes. So this reverberates even into what you might say are middle and upper class students who are advancing into college level.
Yeah. This reminds me, you made mention of it, how they're going easy on grades now. And I see this even in my kids' school. I'm like, what? They got extra credit for, I mean, it's getting to be a little bit ridiculous. In Los Angeles, they say crime is down, but they say crime is down because they're not arresting anybody for crime. So they say crime is down because they have nobody that's been arrested for these things. This doesn't mean that it's not happening. The same thing with schools. They'll tell you that the grades are doing fine, but they're just giving out grades. It's not like you're having an actual judgment of where the grades are. And I think in the end, it hurts the kids because it doesn't hold them accountable for anything. And they're just taught as they go through this young life now that you're not going to be held accountable for anything.
It's absolutely true. When I was on the school board here in Naples, where I live, I put up a chart where our graduation rates had gone up over 20% in a matter of just a few years. But the proficiency rates of reading and math of our high school students stayed exactly the same. So what does that actually mean? We're handing them a diploma, but we're not preparing them any better to read and write and have a career or go onto higher education. So they are fluffing the numbers, and we've seen it even worse since the pandemic. When students were home, distance learning, we saw some rampant grade inflation. And unfortunately, we're getting data now that those inflated grades continue even when students are all back in the classroom. We've even seen at the college level, teachers get sued, or colleges get sued and teachers get fired because their grading is too hard. This is who we're raising. We need to get back to a spirit of excellence and merit in our K-12 and our higher education system. That's something that we're advocating for at Leadership Institute.
I'll leave you with my last philosophy of education about how important the family is and holding kids accountable. I believe that if you took your best school districts, and usually, sadly, they happen to often be the wealthiest school districts, if you took all of those teachers and you put them in the worst school district, and you took the teachers from the worst school district and put them in the wealthiest school district that does really well, you'd have no change in grades. That the kids would still do great with so-called bad teachers, and the kids would still do bad with so-called good teachers, because it's about the community and, even more importantly, the students in the class. If they're not taught to behave, they disrupt it for everyone. And so that's my philosophy on education. I'll give you the last word, 10, 15 seconds.
Well, at Optima Ed, we want to get parents involved. We want to let them know how important their involvement is in the success of their children. And we find that when you bring in parents, unlike school districts that often push parents away, they love their children, they want them to succeed, and they just need the support from their schools.
Yeah. Great stuff. Erika Donalds, I appreciate you coming on the program tonight. I hope we get to see you again real soon.
Absolutely.